and the economy and the growth of the economy was doing a good job for us when we were young, if you like, when as an economy, as a society, we were young. And one of the really important things to say is that there are some societies where that is still necessary, where you still need that growth, where you still need food, clothing, and shelter, where there are very, very poor, undernourished people living on less than the price of a skinny latte from the cafe downstairs. And that's a situation where growth makes some sense. But the idea that as human beings, all we want ever is more and more stuff doesn't really stack up. So after a certain point, you have to ask yourself, well, how much is enough? How much more do I need to grow the economy to satisfy human appetites?
The 1970s saw growth rates sink for the first time due to the oil crisis and other factors. The boom was over, the market saturated, Western economies stagnated. Millions suddenly found themselves unemployed. It was uncharted territory. For the first time, the limits of growth became visible, economically, socially, and ecologically.
We do have some understanding about growth.
In 1972, a group of scholars commissioned by the Club of Rome presented a report in Washington entitled The Limits to Growth. Using a computer simulation, researchers at MIT had calculated for the first time what continuous economic growth would do to the planet. Their findings set off alarm bells around the world.
When resource consumption is doubling every 20 years,
for the first time, people were confronted with the fact that economic growth could also have negative consequences, and that the planet's natural limits would soon be reached. The success story of growth was in crisis.
We've reached levels of prosperity which carry the seeds of disruption and necessitate a complete relook at the whole world's social, political, and other situations.
The Club of Rome report sold 30 million copies and became a global sensation. And yet, soon the scholars themselves came under attack. Their calculations were decried as irresponsible fear-mongering, because it's impossible to admit the unacceptable. The success story of growth must continue. Unfortunately, many of the scholars' predictions turned out to be right, and in many cases, reality even surpassed their bleak predictions.